makes no specific reference to what exactly NORAD will do with these documents, JANAP 146 does say every attempt will be made to verify the authenticity of survey's reports. Where possible, authentication will be required. But NORAD is a super-secretive agency, and efforts to discover what it does with the survey's reports are often frustrated.
NORAD is not subject to the Freedom of Information Act, and they completely 100% deny any existence of UFO records. In fact, in one letter, NORAD tried to tell me they didn't even know what JANAP 146 was. And in JANAP 146, in black and white, says NORAD as the retrieval agency for these UFO reports.
The other thing about JANAP 146 has to do with penalties that you would incur if you were to report this through non-official channels. These penalties were severe. They included imprisonment and I think a $10,000 fine. Mighty big incentive to keep your mouth shut.
And many believe there are also other forces that limit pilots from making any reports of UFOs.
I think there's tremendous pressure just in society in general that discourages people from bringing up things that are considered paranormal, UFOs, flying saucers being one of them. This breeds secrecy. Secrecy breeds distrust. That generates more pressure in this terrible, kind of cycle.
To many researchers in the field, this silence is likely a result of what seems to be the primary goal of U.S. government policy on UFOs: secrecy.
It seems clear from a lot of the government discussions of the problem of contact that they wouldn't make this known to the public if it happened. The general attitude of the government about not only about UFOs but many other things is just to play it safe and not tell the public what's going on.
But many outside the government are increasingly certain that to play it safe, we need a detailed plan to deal with the UFO potential. When we return, if a fake radio broadcast can set off a panic, just imagine what a real alien invasion would do. May 30th, 1995, Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada. August 24th, 1990. Greifswald, Germany. July 6th, 1995. Tirana, Albania. Many researchers believe that with the increasing number of UFO sightings, it is just a matter of time before an irrefutable alien encounter happens. In that case, what plans do we have for dealing with them? What if the aliens are hostile, intent on conquering us? How will people react? A dress rehearsal for just such a scenario took place in 1938 during a radio broadcast to the eastern United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
War of the Worlds was a science fiction story written in the 1890s and broadcast by Orson Welles on his Mercury Theater of the Air.
The battle which took place tonight at Grover Mills has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered by an army in modern times.
It was a very powerful broadcast, and it led to attacks on the radio station and things like that.
7,000 men armed with rifles and machine guns pitted against the single fighting machine of the invaders from Mars.
Many people did not realize that they were listening to a radio play, became panicked by what they heard.
The broadcast ignited hysteria. Switchboards up and down the East Coast were overloaded with frightened callers. Hundreds of people evacuated their homes. The police even received eyewitness reports of fires raging from the attack.
Many people took protective kinds of action that looked silly in retrospect, but seemed very sensible to the people at the time. And the social psychologists have had a wonderful thing to study ever since.
Summer 1952. Washington, D.C. With widespread reports of UFO sightings over the nation's capital, the alien invasion scenario became all too real to the U.S. government. What happened next would impact UFO policy for decades.
This included radar observations. This included incursions by multiple phenomenon over the Capitol building, and it definitely raised the concern of the United States Air Force.
It was bedlam for a while there. It was 2 weekends in a row where UFOs were seen over the White House. We know that President Truman was very concerned about this. The CIA was absolutely intent on doing something about this problem.
In January 1953, the CIA convened a panel of scientists and military advisors to study the UFO issue, headed by H.P. Robertson of the California Institute of Technology. While the Robertson panel unanimously concluded that UFOs posed no direct threat to national security, the panel did suggest a plan for dealing with them.
The Robertson panel concluded that it was in the best interest of the United States government to suppress media coverage of UFO sightings. And to do that, they recommended a number of standard propaganda methods. They wanted, first of all, to use ridicule to cast the subject into disrepute.
And this was in the context of a training program that they wanted to put out, an educational campaign which would involve two components, training and debunking. They use the word debunking, and they actually say that the mass media should be employed by the national security apparatus of the United States to control the way the UFO subject was presented.
United States UFO policy would continue to evolve. Evidence of this would be found in a report hidden in top-secret files of the Federal Archives for more than 30 years. Known in the UFO community as the Brookings Report, it was prepared for both NASA and the United States Congress.
The Brookings Institute report dates from the very end of 1960. And this was something that was conducted on behalf of NASA at the very beginning of the space program to discuss the implications of space travel.
It was led by a psychologist, Donald Michael, team of 6 writers and maybe 60 consultants, including people with good name recognition like Margaret Mead. As we get to the end of the report, there's a page and a half, 2 pages that deal with the possibility of encountering extraterrestrial intelligence. And it addresses many of the issues that concern us today. How will people react? What will it do to the international political system? How will it affect government leadership? Again, very brief, very concise, but very important.
It stated very explicitly that if, for instance, we find evidence of alien artifacts or technology, that this would be a tremendously difficult, traumatic experience for not only global religion, but also the world of science. And indeed, I believe the phrase was, it could result in social disintegration.
Anthropological files contained many examples of societies sure of their place in the universe, which have disintegrated when they had to associate with previously unfamiliar societies, espousing different ideas and different life ways.
The suggestion that was made in this report, incidentally, was that if our space program came up with evidence of alien intelligence,